and wolf down some dinner while I'm at it. Ooh, 20-second delay. I love it. There we go. We should be live on YouTube. So I just muted my video so you guys don't have to watch me eating.
Administration to make a decision. When were they going to have a decision? Are we on mute?
Sir.
Did you send the link to me yet?
Yes, sir. I sent it out last Thursday after the special session. Would you like it again?
Would you please? That'd be helpful because I can't find it, unfortunately.
Yes, sir. I'll send it to you just here in 10 seconds.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Bye.
I'm laughing because I was in a panic and just called Brenda and said, I can't find Bob's link. I had deleted it. I hadn't even opened it, Brenda.
That's okay. Dr. Apostle just asked me to send it to him again because he can't find it either.
I heard that.
That's hilarious.
Just so you all know, if you suddenly see my video off, I'm having terrible problem with internet. I'm going to try it. And then if I disappear, I'm still here.
Hi, Glenn.
Yo.
We currently have 17 people.
You're still muted, Sandy, if you're talking.
Thank you very much.
Hi,
I
Sandy.
was asking our Zoom master, do we have a means for timing if there's any public comment?
I have a stopwatch sitting right beside me over here.
Okay. All
Sandy,
right.
Excuse me, Sally, or excuse me, Carrie Davidson indicated that in a WASDA Zoom meeting, I think it was a Zoom meeting, that they indicated that the superintendent should start the meeting by saying our school board agenda is only what is necessary and routine. Do you want me to go ahead and make that statement when you're ready for me to do that?
Sure. Can we do that with the adoption of the agenda?
Whatever you need me to do.
Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Okay. All righty. And then do we have a flag for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Nuts. I was
I
going to
got
grab one and I forgot.
I got one.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. The last minute I thought of Jeff last time and just grabbed a flag out of a pot.
Good job.
So. All righty. I have 6 o'clock. Is everybody else?
Yep.
Is our Zoom master our official timekeeper?
Sure.
Okay. And
I
it's 6
have-
o'clock.
1,800 hours.
All righty. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order then. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a flag. Okay. I pledge allegiance.
Allegiance
to the flag
to the flag
Of
of the United States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All righty. We will move. I just want to say good evening and thank you all for being here. It's 6 o'clock. We've called the meeting to order. Board members and presenters are connected via Zoom, and this meeting is broadcast live on YouTube. Public comment can be either received by calling a phone number in the Zoom platform or by submitting an email to sheltonschools.org. At this time, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda, and Alex has a couple of words.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Our school board agenda is only what is necessary and routine. Thank you.
All righty. Have board members had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I know it looks a little bit long, might look a little bit of intimidating, but I think we'll get through it fairly quickly. So are there any changes to the agenda?
No, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, the agenda is adopted. We are entering into the first of 2 community comment periods. The second community comment period is toward the end of the meeting. The board welcomes input from the public. Please include your name and address, whether calling with or emailing your comments. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. And in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda, and we may refer any items that arise to the superintendent for follow-up. The board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. Do we have any community members to speak at this time? Zoom master.
There are no messages in the school board mailbox, and there are no call-ins waiting in the wings.
Okay, all righty. With that, we'll move on. Oh, one other thing. Do we have any student reps on the meeting with us?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, all righty. So then we'll move on to reports and recognitions, please. the discussion on the graduation preparations and ceremonies for our seniors with Marianne Marshall, Kelly Neely, Stacy Anderson, Jennifer Diet. Do we have them? We'll have to decide who's speaking and unmute them, I guess.
I can speak to that.
Looks like Stacy.
I'm available, but I'm waiting to see if Dr. Apostle wants me to go or if Kelly or Marianne would like to go first.
I think, Marianne, let's start with you and I'll open up the conversation.
All right. So as you know, our ceremonies have a chance of looking different this year. And so our two buildings have put together committees that is made up of students, parents, teachers, and admin. And they're coming together to decide for their buildings what to do for graduation. And I can let Stacy and Jen Diet speak to specifically what they're doing with their committees and what's going on with that.
I just want to mention, Sandy, if I can, I was in a Zoom meeting with Superintendent Reichdahl this afternoon. And one of the topics of discussion was graduation ceremonies. And he indicated that there would be information concerning graduation ceremonies coming from the governor shortly. So I know the planning has been done and discussions have taken place, but we could have new information as it relates to graduation ceremonies across the state of Washington, but we can continue, of course, with the presentation.
All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Stacy Anderson, the principal at Choice High School, to speak on her behalf as what her committee's doing.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me to the board meeting. Nice to see you all tonight. Shelton High and Choice, have some different situations and some similar things. We've talked to each other quite a bit. Jennifer Diet and I have. I think you have in your board packet the results of a survey we did with our community. We had more parents respond than students, but 67% at the last check I had on it said that they would prefer an in-person ceremony when we could do one. I went back to my Choice team with that. We talked to seniors, we talked to senior leadership in terms of our graduation coordinator and our senior advisors, and talked to some parents, and we decided that we would prefer for Choice to hold a ceremony in September if possible. We would set a date, and then we would either have that ceremony in person at Shelton High School's Performing Arts Center on that date, or if the restrictions were still in place, we would go ahead with a virtual ceremony in September. And we have not obviously been able to survey every parent and every senior, but all of the ones I've talked to have said we don't want to do it in person if at all possible. So that's the tentative plan for Choice. The other thing I wanted to let the board know about is we are securing from Black Star. We have ordered some senior yard signs that say Shelton High School on the left of the sign and Choice High School on the right, and it says Senior 2020. So that's coming from a variety of sources as far as the funding for that, but that's something we want to do also to support our seniors. So those are the two updates I have at this moment, unless you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the principal of Shelton High School, Ms. Jennifer Diet.
Thank you. Thank you for having us at the board meeting tonight. We have a committee that consists of 17 participants today, to include staff members, current seniors, and parents. And those folks, they wanted to know what our direction was, what availability we had to school. And ironically, as Dr. Apostle just shared with us, they wanted to know what the governor's direction was. So it's great to hear that that's coming. I'll give you just a quick summary as I took just a few brief notes. One of the big issues with a class of roughly 250 that would typically walk through commencement is we have a number of students who will be going into the armed services. So we would need to do something before July 8th. They all believe that July 8th is the earliest day that any of those kiddos would be shipped off or into the services. So they were talking about holding something by June. That being the situation, they didn't see how we would be able to do anything other than a virtual ceremony. But again, we'll wait and see what the governor comes up with. We do still have our date at St. Martin's reserved for June 15th. We have talked with St. Martin's in terms of a later date, although due to their calendar, that may be really restrictive and that may not be possible. So they just tossed around the things of the drive-in. We found out that the drive-in theater holds roughly 330 cars. So if we limit it limited it to 1 car per graduate, we would all fit. We weren't sure how we would deal with staff or board guests and those kinds of things, but believe we could work that out. And again, they just said virtual and what might we have access to. So we then talked about things that Jostens would present, such as a platform, video components, and those kinds of things. They also kind of the students went off a little bit on a stream, which was really great. And they said that they are sure hoping that they can have a day to say goodbye to staff. That by leaving on March 13th, thinking they were coming back on Monday, the 16th, they thought they could say their goodbyes. And so they're hoping to incorporate that somehow in what we're doing. We believe we will have a decision by early June. June 1st is a Monday, so maybe the latest that first Friday. And we want to start planning now on what that virtual ceremony would look like. Christy Zakem, many of you know the name of Christy Zakem. She is just phenomenal. She is chairing the committee, and she had a PowerPoint that she's going to share out with all committee members. Again, the video segments for speeches. On that note, we have 6, it was after the number 5, yes, 6 valedictorians this year, and they are all boys. Now, when we went, right, when we went through the list of names, we all kind of thought, those 6 boys probably are not speakers, but I reminded the committee that their families might want them to give a graduation speech. So we're going to reach out to them and let them know where they stand and find out their interest, because that would tier things in terms of speeches and such. They also talked about a parade being led by the Shelton Police Department and ending on campus with maybe some form of handing out the diploma at that time. The valedictorians I already mentioned, and that took us about an hour today to get into those details. Again, the committee of 17 people was probably fairly well split. About half of those were parents. They are parents who have been on the booster club for the class of 2020 that was working on a graduation trip. So active group, great ideas, and we are going to be setting our next meeting.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Kelly, anything to add there?
Nope, they covered it all.
Yeah, but like I said before you made your presentations, I believe the governor very soon is going to make a comment one way or the other that will give us some direction in terms of what we can and cannot do. But it's great to hear all the different alternatives. I'm hearing some of the same things from other high schools around the state, that they're going virtual in most cases, but they still want to have face-to-face graduation ceremonies. But at this point, it's going to be pretty difficult to do that. And so other alternatives like you've discussed tonight might come into play for sure.
I would imagine we'll have a pretty eager group if things change to be able to adjust plans to those potential changes.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Yeah, I agree. Those are some nice ideas. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that there's committees with parents, students, and staff that are all thinking this through. I happened to talk to Tim Garcha today on the phone after sending him an email as well too, and he's the executive director of WASDA, which is the Washington School Board Director Association. He also said what Dr. Apostle just said, that we will most likely get more direction, possibly next week, because the anticipation is that even if we start easing into things, that there may be restrictions on group sizes. But I'm very curious to see what those group sizes might be, and if there is some way to even incorporate, if we have to go a virtual route, because that seems to be the only way we can go, to if there are small group sizes, if we can somehow think out of the box to have some type of way that parents and students can feel like they are either walking across the stage or something. So I think it's important to have like a plan A and a plan B, and it sounds like you guys are doing that, which is wonderful. And I'm happy to hear the feedback is being included in all of these plans. I am also curious if we will hear anything about moving on ceremonies for other schools.
Sandy, can I respond?
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up, Carrie. In preliminary discussions with the elementary, middle school, and junior high principals and this was probably about 3 weeks ago. They felt with everything that was being demanded of them and the state of flux that we're in, they would prefer not to do it. But if the board would like to see that go on, we can sure talk about it, and we can see what we can do. But based on, this was about probably close to 3 weeks ago, they said, Alex, it's just too difficult to do that. So you can let me know how you feel about that, and then we can move in the direction you would like. But that came from the principals, because I did ask the question.
I can certainly understand the feelings of being overwhelmed, especially as all of this has begun. And I'd be curious to see if maybe in the next week or two, if maybe that sentiment has changed and there could perhaps be some type of virtual. A lot of the schools are putting out videos right now that are encouraging with students or with teachers speaking to students. And even if it was something as simple as that, if people submitted pictures.
Right.
I know that my two daughters, and I have a daughter that will be moving on from OMS to OBJH. And, those kids are missing out on a smaller version of what, definitely our seniors are missing out on.
Well, no doubt. And I'll relay that information and see what we could possibly do.
But I definitely do understand the burden that is going on for people right now with the amount of work and effort that's being done, as well as balancing their own family and personal situations during this situation.
But I can get back to you and the board on that.
That would be great.
Thank you. Anybody else with comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4.02. It's an update on the distribution of Chromebooks and the transportation and instructional packets, Wi-Fi. I think we have Brenda for this report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
Glenn
you.
is actually going to come on with me because he has some additional information. So we're going to tag team here a bit.
All right.
So first I'll talk about Chromebooks. We first, actually, I want to give kudos to the tech staff because they have just really stepped it up here and just been amazing. They've been working hard. So I want to give kudos to them before I start talking about it. We, as of today, have distributed 2,212 Chromebooks across the district. We have done numerous distributions. The first time we did a full week at all of the food sites from 9 to 12 every day of the week. And then we ended up doing an evening one at Oakland Bay for a couple hours. Had a huge line for that one too. So the evening one helped a lot. And then this last week, they were at every site doing the instructional packet distribution. So we handed out a few more. Now we have our online form that people can sign up on, and we will schedule a time to get the Chromebook to them, or they can work through their building principal if someone doesn't have one for right now. So that is that piece. I don't know if Glenn, did you get by school? How many we did by school? We were talking about doing that today.
Yes, I have that. I actually have the stats right on the screen here.
Okay, can we share that?
Sure.
Oh.
Okay, so as you can see, that is how many we have distributed by school as of this moment in time. So we're not really hearing of many requests right now. I think I've just had a couple in probably the last week since we did our last distribution. So, and we're just handling those as they come in at this point in time. So is there any questions on the Chromebooks before I?
No, I think that's good. Doesn't seem, oh, sorry, Carrie.
Yeah, I was going to just pop in and say, I really appreciate all of these Chromebooks being distributed. I know that in the beginning of this, just in talking to some of my friends with children, when they tried to use their own home computers, things were not as easy for their kids. So being able to have the school Chromebook and their child could easily log in has made a big difference. And just for people that didn't have access to that as well too. So that's a lot of Chromebooks. I'm really glad we were able to do that.
Yes, so we, Aaron Miller did a great database where they could, as they were checking them out, they were entering the asset tag and all information right there to keep our inventory up to date right at that minute. So it has flowed pretty well for us. So, okay, that all on that one. The next one, student transportation access for instructional packets. We have kind of avoided doing the buses to hand out the packets. Alex asked the principals last week about it. They wanted to wait to get some data on actually how many people were picking up their packets and if we had to mail some. And we were trying to wrap our head around, when you have 4,400 students, how do you know which packet goes on which bus for which specific kid? So we're still trying to work through that piece. I will tell you, I'm going to segue to meals off of the instructional packets. We have started 2 bus routes this week, one for Fawn Lake to deliver meals and one for Oak Park. We're not really getting a lot of hits on it right now. We only had 12 meals at Fawn Lake today and 28 at Oak Park. So we'll continue to do that and hopefully it will increase. Katie's really pushing that out for us. So we're going to keep that going and see if we can increase that number. So internet Wi-Fi access and then the PUD collaboration on hotspots. I'm going to probably let Glenn do most of the talking on this because he's done a lot of work on it. I will say PUD has ordered all of their equipment they need to put up the hotspots. They were starting with 20 and one place backed out, so now they're down to 19 and they believe the equipment's about 4 weeks out now, probably 3 because that was a week ago, but they'll start installing, getting their line crews out. They're all ready to go once the equipment arrives. So we'll have those hotspots. And then Glenn, do you want to step in there and say what else we've been doing on all that?
Sure, let me get my screen here again. So all of the teachers in the schools were contacting the different buildings to find out basically, you know, who had online access and computer devices and all that. And so I took that data and I basically made a little Google map that has all the families that do not have internet at the time that they were contacted. So some of this data could be a little bit old because that probably happened I think during the week of spring break. But so this map here shows basically where the families are located that don't have internet. And I was really surprised at, you know, looking it over. I was expecting a lot of the outlying areas. You'll see there's an actual big clump of people that are downtown. So one of the things that we're working on besides just the PUD is that we also are looking at doing our own parking lots. And so we have Wi-Fi now available in our parking lots. And so if you look at the blue markers on that map, we picked the Shelton High School, Evergreen Elementary, and Bordeaux. So it's kind of spread across the district for this. And so we can basically have families drive up at the high school. You'll see we've got the new parking lot, the new building. We've turned some access points in that new building so they're shining out into the parking lot, giving us coverage there. Evergreen Elementary, we've got access points from the library projecting out into the parking lot. And then we've done the same thing over at Bordeaux into their parking lot and then also along the street also for that access. So we have that up and running currently. And then if you haven't seen the maps for the PUD, their maps are the, I don't know what color that is, with the little stars on them. So that's where their parking lot Wi-Fi installations are going to be going to.
Okay, are there any questions about the hotspots? We are doing research on purchasing single hotspots that possibly we could get service on for families, but we're still putting that together and I'll be honest with you, it's very, very expensive from what we're seeing so far. And also what we're hearing is the companies have run out of the hotspots. So even if you order them, you're probably 2 months out right now. So
I might add that students that have no access, we gave approval to our principals to actually distribute textbooks to students when they were picking up their lunch and breakfast. So we're reaching out in every way possible to assist our students, those students that can't get to one of the parking areas where they can access Wi-Fi. So we're reaching out in a number of different ways because we know there are difficult situations out there where students don't have access and so on. So we're giving textbooks out and we're keeping track of the materials that we're distributing, but we feel it's worth it so that we're doing everything possible to help our kids.
Do we know? Oh, go ahead.
I had a question about um, access and actual use. There's a family down the road from me and they have 5 kids in the district. And so they have all these Chromebooks, but if they can use only one at a time. If they try to use 2, it crashes. So are we counting that they have access, but maybe they really don't because it's not usable for the schedules?
that could be, I'm not sure. Glenn, do you know how the teachers asked the question when they called the families? I don't know exactly how they asked it.
I think it was just as simple, do you have internet access or not? I know some responses said, sometimes or something, but I had to basically put in a table where either they had internet access, they didn't, or we're not, we don't know if they do or not.
I think that would be a good question to ask and to dig a little deeper to find out, if you've got, let's say you've got 3 children and they have the Chromebooks, but they only can access one at a time, if that, that would be important to know.
I'll tell you a little funny story. You always hear about the dog eating the homework. We had a dog eat a Chromebook cord today. So
Really?
Oh yeah. That's our funny.
Will we have any kind of idea how many people use or how many times a Wi-Fi spot is used?
Glenn, do you have a way to track that?
Yeah, we have basically a spreadsheet we can export out of Google that says when a Chromebook was used, when it was last used, when it was logged on to. It's not the most user-friendly of spreadsheets, but we do have that. One of the other things I've done is I've looked at, since we have our internet filtering on it, I have gone in a couple days and looked to see, where our students are going. And it's nice to see the #1 spot is docs@google.com and classroom Google. So those are our 2 main sites that kids are going to. We've got some of our educational websites that are also listed in there, but since they have to go to Google and Google Classroom to get anything, that's where all of the main hits are going to be coming from. But I am seeing quite a bit of use out there, not only by the students, but also by the teachers that have some Chromebooks at home. So they're all out there using the devices.
Okay. Yes, my question was more along the lines of being able to assess if that Wi-Fi location is the best one. If we have 2 spots out there and one's not getting any use, can we, consider moving that one to a different one? So do we have any way of knowing how much usage is coming through a given hotspot?
We started using those on and advertising them on Monday. So if nothing else, we could look at some of our security cameras to see.
Okay.
The ones are still going to be a ways off, but they probably have some tracking also on those particular ones.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else with questions or comments? Do I see a hand?
Me, yes. I actually can help Sally and maybe some of you in the question that you asked. When the teachers call at home, they also ask if the student needs a packet. So every week the teachers are making contact with every student. And so if a student can't access that Wi-Fi, let's say it's not strong enough to pull down all 5 Chromebooks at the same time, the family can switch over to packets. So
Yeah.
they will be asked about that every week.
Can parents call the schools? Can they call, like, are the school numbers transferred to teachers' homes or whatever? How does a parent contact a teacher? Because I had a different parent today tell me, well, because I asked her, she has a kindergartner, and I said, okay, how's it going and what, you know? And she said, well, they got a Chromebook. They didn't know a password, didn't know quite what to do with it, and wanted to know how to call a teacher because no one has called them.
So I can tell you on the password that we have, Glenn, I don't know if you want to talk about it more than me, but we do have an email address that's chromebooks@sheltonschools.org that quite a few people have been emailing in on, and we get right back to them on their school identification number. And also now we have added a tech support line with a phone number that they call in and leave a voicemail, and we have tech monitoring that and returning calls right away. So.
Okay.
That doesn't answer your question about the teacher not contacting the student, but.
Well, she wasn't, and I wasn't totally sure of, you know, processes, and it's probably, you know, it's a kindergarten parent. They haven't done this kind of thing before. And many of our parents haven't done this kind of thing before, you know, so.
And Sally, just because I have 2 kids that I am getting calls from the school district, they're sending for us from OMS, we're getting emails and they're letting us know that those phone calls are coming in and it's saying it's a restricted number. So they give us a heads up about that. So sometimes people may not realize that that phone call, it's not going to identify the teacher or even where the call is coming from. And so people might miss that call. Or if you're like me and you're working in the day as well as juggling your kid's schedule, you might miss that call. So I know that this week, when the teachers connect with us, they're going to ask us what our preferred method of communication is, whether that's email or text reminders or a phone call, because I can't always answer the phone when somebody's calling because I may be in my own meeting for work. So they are doing a really good job of trying to connect, but I know that there's, I mean, just with all of this, there's ways it can fall through the cracks too.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't answer unidentified numbers.
Right. Yeah. So the best way might be to encourage that person to email their teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sandy, may I make a comment, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Katie, have we publicized these connections, these numbers that parents can call on our website?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, they're on our website and it's posted in multiple places, and we send out our messages to contact your teacher or to email them if you have not heard from them.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all for all that information and suggestions. That's very good advice, and it's a good thing to network and share those suggestions and comments. So appreciate that.
Sandy?
Yes.
Excuse me again. I would like for Glenn and Brenda to add to this report by talking about technology support for our staff that we have in place. And
right.
Kelly, maybe you can help too.
Okay, I'm gonna let Glenn talk about that because that's his world.
Right.
I see all the emails flow through, but he
Yeah.
lives the day in and day out.
That's fine.
Okay.
So I have, basically that's on the 3rd agenda item is our technology support. So We go right into that, and I do cover support we're doing for families and students and staff and all of those different areas.
Where is
Sounds like
that
a good
at?
segue.
It's the 4.03.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
Alrighty, well, here it goes.
Yeah, we'll go after him.
So first thing I have is some of the support for families, and I'll go through some of this quick because we've kind of already talked about it. We've handed out the Chromebooks. We have our email address that we've had probably about 170 emails that have come in that have asked for support with Chromebooks, and our technicians are the ones that are replying to those emails. We also have our phone number. It's posted out there. We've only had 2 phone calls so far, and one was from another district asking about what we were doing for some of our internet stuff. So the number's out there though, so we're maintaining and watching that to see what is happening. We posted a lot of documents out on our website. We had a Chromebook FAQ, and I've turned that into basically a remote learning technology guide. And there's everything from taking your cell phone and turning it onto a hotspot, issues you might have with the Chromebook, a little bit of information about Google Classroom. So those are out there for our families. And some of the other support that we've done, a lot for the communication side of things, because that is basically the main way we communicate now. I know with my staff and other people, my email volume has just like gone through the roof because that's how I communicate with people now. I can't just walk down the hall and talk to them. But we've gone through, we have Google Classroom that almost all of our teachers, I think, are using to disperse information. We've had email accounts for our students, but it was a very restricted email. So like staff couldn't even email over to the student side. So we've opened that up so that at the secondary and intermediate level, teachers can directly email the students so that they can keep a constant dialogue that way with them. And we're also going through, teachers are recording screens and recording videos and broadcasting those out. We've done a lot of video conferencing that you're as you are well aware of. So we've created accounts first for administrative staff. You're very well aware of, we're doing Zoom school board meetings. So we've set up some guidelines because our students aren't used to that. Well, we're not used to it. So our students aren't used to that and our teachers aren't. So we've set up some guidelines for them to know what they should and shouldn't be doing on those. We're also using Google Meet in the classrooms to communicate that way. I've only popped in on one lesson, but I saw a nice little math lesson happening at Olympic Middle School last week. And then we've created Zoom accounts for teachers if they want to use those. The surprising stat, we had 33 Zoom meetings in March. But we've had 441 Zoom meetings this month. So we're out there making plans. Those are staff meetings. Those are meetings with students. So there's a lot that's happening. So we basically help to get that information going. A little more directly to what Dr. Apostle was asking about was some of the stuff we've been doing for staff. So we have our administrative staff set up with VPN access, our office staff so that they can continue working from home. So we've created those so they can connect directly into the school district and work right on their computers because they have specialized software on their computers and they need to be able to use that. So we've made it so that they can sit at home and work on their actual computers at work. Our support staff are out there helping teachers. All of our tech staff, rather than doing regular service requests, I've sent out an email saying, hey, if you need some help, email your building support coordinators. And so we're getting those. And just for the idea, throughout the number, I had somewhere around 1,200 emails last week. And so staff are asking questions and we're helping them out. I haven't responded to all those yet, but we're getting there. Some of them I sent off to other people. We've also done some things to help out families, hopefully to make them easy or things easier for them to access our online curriculum. We have a place called the Clever Portal where we've shifted over a lot of our programs. The nice thing is there's a lot of programs that once they get on the Clever Portal, they don't have to remember another username or another password. They can just click on Dreambox and go right into it, or learning.com. So we've got those that are out there for the families, hopefully to make it easier for them. And that's have most of that information is basically the same information I put on a web page that I created last week sometime. It's our remote learning technology guide. So if you want to see all of that, get some more of the information off of there, because I did fly through those. Pretty much all that information is out there on that web page. And there's a nice alert up there on our district webpage. So as soon as you get there, you won't have any problems accessing that, and the phone number and our email for support.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Great.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Questions or comments from board members?
I just really appreciate all the technology help. I know that it's been a big leap forward for a lot of us who have never been on this many Zoom meetings or Google Docs or Google Classroom. And even just watching the learning curve with my daughters, because as the teachers invited each other to their classrooms, the students were seeing things in a way that they weren't used to. So just being able to either access what you've written up already or be able to talk to somebody about it has been very helpful. I appreciate that. And I think other families have too.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else? All righty.
Just if I could, I'd like to thank the tech department, because they've really rallied to the cause. There is no question about it. They've done a terrific job, and they continue to do that every single day.
Absolutely. Did we have Allison in there?
Very good.
Is Allison with us?
Marianne?
Dr. Apostle, I'd like to speak to the training that Kelly and I put together for teachers to support them with this Google online platform.
Sure.
So this Friday, our teachers will be able to take part in a 1-hour training on, if you're new to Google Classrooms and you're not sure how to do it, we're providing a 1-hour training that's going to teach teachers about the initial setup of Google Classroom, how to create topics, assignments, questions, and how to add students and staff. So that will be offered this Friday, but also will be recorded and sent out for those who aren't able to access it on Friday. The other training that we're going to provide is goes a little bit more advanced. So once you get that initial training, we're going to provide 6 STEM clock hours for teachers to participate in G Suite Essentials. It just goes deeper into Google Classroom. So it teaches them how to use different applications, how to use our online curriculum and import that into Google Classroom. And that will just get them more comfortable. It's interactive. And so we're looking forward to providing that continued support for staff throughout the rest of the year.
Kelly?
Those classes are free, which is awesome because we belong to a consortium. The other thing that we've done to help some of the teachers out, particularly at elementary school, is some of the documents are so huge in the electronic form that I'm working with the company, our reading company, to condense that and make it easier for them to send it out into their Google platform. So Nat Geo has really been helpful for us with that aspect.
Thank you. I might mention to the board that as we get into remote learning more and more every single day, I mentioned to Kelly and to Marianne that we need to provide professional development for our teachers as much as possible and as soon as possible. So I believe I mentioned it on Wednesday, and the following week they launched it. So thank you very much. And I know I've talked to a few teachers that are very thankful for that opportunity, and we're going to continue to refine. We don't want to give our teachers too many programs to deal with. So we're just starting off with what we have right now, and we're going to be adding to that. So very good.
Yes, thank you. thank you to the IT department and to everybody that's putting all that stuff together. Wouldn't work without all that help and support. So any other comments from or questions from board members? Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And these are items that are the routine and are there any, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Let's start with that.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The consent agenda is passed. All righty. So now we'll move on to discussion and action items. The proposed new high school name. Doesn't say who's going to lead that one. Who's going to
That's
talk to
Stacy.
that one?
That's Stacy.
All righty. Thank you, Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm back again. So as you all know, we've been working on the new high school here in Shelton, and we are very, very excited. We've got our applications ready to go. Recruitment's a little difficult in these times, but we're working through it. It's going to be great. So we are waiting for moving forward on name. We did hear your feedback that some of the board members had some concerns about Cascadia. We ran another community survey, and I think you had the results of those in your board packet. So you'll see we proposed 5 names that had come up out of our initial process. We actually proposed 4 that were initial. We added 1, which was PEAK, an acronym. And you'll see that all of the names came back fairly even. They were all really close to a 3. Some people had concerns about the survey. Katie and I had talked about it ahead of time, and I think we put it out with the best of intentions, but some people got a little confused on how to rank it. So there was some confusion on that, but most people I think did it just fine. It does show that all of the names though came back fairly equal. So we don't have one that is out there as the front runner. I met with my new tech team and they still prefer Cascadia, but they understand some of the board's concerns. So we did a vote with that team. And they said, first of all, they really want to make sure the student voices were heard. And the students came up with Cascadia as their first choice and Cedar was their second choice. And this most recent vote didn't have a lot of student participation. So at this point, the new tech team would like to propose for your consideration Cascadia as our first choice, Cedar as our second. But whatever you move forward with, we will support and move forward so we can get our promotional brochures out there. So that's all I have at this moment, unless you have any questions.
Questions or comments from board members? None? Question or a comment from Alex?
Yes, I think that Stacy has done a very nice job along with her staff to gather input in terms of this important step in moving forward with the new school concept. And if the board could make a decision on this, I think it would be very important because many different objectives and goals are before us in terms of making sure that this program is going to be launched in the very near future. So I would encourage the board, if they could, to please make a decision on this so that Stacy and the staff can move forward to do some of the other things that they need to do.
I have a question.
And I might add that, these are very difficult times for a number of reasons, as we know. But I must say that Stacy has never given an inch on moving this program forward. She has done a terrific job. She's basically saying, I'm not going to be denied. My staff is not going to be denied. We're not going to give up. And no matter the challenges before us, we're going to make this happen. So that's why I'm encouraging the board to do what they can to make a decision so that Stacy can continue to move forward.
I have a question of Stacy. Before we had to close schools and you were able to have that conversation with students, was it with all of the students or was it with the seniors, or how was that discussion?
Great question. So when we did the first survey that we did online, we sent it out to anybody in the community who wanted to participate. Online, we asked the choice students specifically to do that during an advisory period. We also have had multiple meetings with our choice students during advisory, just regarding the new school concept. What do they want to see it be? All of those types of things. After we got the report back from the online survey where we had some top names, we gave those to the students and they voted in each advisory. And we're not a huge school, so there weren't a lot of votes, but it was everybody from 7th graders up to seniors. And the votes were pretty close. They picked Cascadia first, but Cedar came in as a close second. And then they had some other names we had put in that original voting, including Trillium High School, which refers to obviously that beautiful flower, and some of the kids liked that it grows along the Teresa Johnson Trail, to a few of the other names we put out there. So the votes came back from the students, and I don't have those in front of me right now, but it was a good number that, you know, puts Cascadia ahead of Cedar. But I do know there's concerns about Cascadia from a historical perspective, so we understand if that's not what we go with. But we did have a lot of community comments about various other names we could have done. I think you saw in the last board meeting, we had, you know, over 40 suggestions, and I didn't realize how hard naming a new school would be. But we want something that's relatively, we want something that's inclusive to everyone. So we thought about some historical names, and we thought maybe those wouldn't quite fit. And the student voice came through, and we did allow every student to vote in advisory.
Stacy, were they given the meaning of Cascadia like you had given us at the board meeting, or was it just the name?
Not in depth, no. We just gave them the different names, and they of course had the opportunity to put names in when they did the first online survey. I think I might have told you at the last meeting that our ASB president wanted to name it after him, but we did not allow him to do that. But yeah, you know, they had the opportunity to put in some names, and that's, for example, where Trillian came from, which was one of our students who had been close with Teresa Johnson. But yeah, they didn't know necessarily the background. And I know Cascadia has some connotations, which I did not realize from Dr. Apostle and from Sally about that former, I guess, juvenile boarding school that was in Tacoma. When I've Googled it online, I can't find it, but obviously that impacts our population who remembers that, and that's a concern. But no, they didn't have the context necessarily.
That was a long time ago, Stacy. Long time ago.
Well, and I was saying the meaning of it that you gave the school board, that I didn't realize what Cascadia had meant myself until you explained it. So that helped.
Yeah. I think some of the advisors did that on their own, but we didn't have a full-on presentation for them. We more went for, what do you think would represent this new school? What do you find to be a good name that would be inclusive? And each advisor handled that a little differently.
Yeah. Well, with this information and really knowing the student voice, this is a new school for our students. And so I'd like to make a motion to go ahead with the name of Cascadia High School.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the new high school name as Cascadia. Is there any further discussion? All righty. We will take the vote. All those in favor of the new name being Cascadia, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have a new name for the high school.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to come in tonight. We are so excited, and I think you will all be thrilled to see how this turns out. We're trying to figure out how to do it in the age of a pandemic, but we're hopeful we'll be back to school in the fall to do it correctly. So thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Stacy. All righty. So now we come to some WASDA policies. These are deemed necessary and routine. These will allow the district the framework to address graduation credits for this year's seniors and for future classes as well. So the first policy, 6.02, policy 2409, was actually one that we had started with last year. We had some questions with that one. That one is credit for competency and proficiency, and it deals specifically with world languages. We had some questions during first reading just to refresh everyone's memory. And we have a revised draft that addresses those questions, and we can move this to second reading with the recommendation to approve. Have members of the board had a chance to review 2409, the policy for that? Is there any discussion, questions, comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and call for the vote to approve 2409. All those in favor say aye.
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 Did I need a nominate? Did I do a nomination?
We didn't do a motion.
Okay, let's have a motion first then.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
All righty, it's been moved and seconded to approve policy 2409. Any further discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none, we'll vote on it now for real.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. The reason we started with 2409 was because number one, we had worked on it last year. And number two, the next several policies that come up are essentially identical. It's designed to allow for credit for competency and proficiency, and each policy is designed for a specific subject. So you'll see that we've got English language arts, math, science, social studies, the arts, health and fitness. There's one for integrated environmental and sustainability education. I don't know if we have, is that one an applicable one to courses that we have? Are we going to have that in one of the future academies? Is that one we?
It looks like Kelly's nodding yes.
Yes, sorry. I wasn't sure, talk or not talk. Yes, it will be in one of the pathways for environmental sciences.
Okay, all righty. And by passing these policies, then the procedures can be developed and they do not require board approval. So if the board is willing, we could pass these next group as a group, or did you want to take them individually?
Let's do
Do them as a group.
As a group, all righty.
I move that we approve policies 2402, 2403, 2404, 2405, 2406, 2407, and 2408.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the policies 2402 through 2408 in one group. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of passing those policies as they are and as they are recommended through WASDA, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All righty. The next policy is 2413, equivalency credit. I'm sorry, there were people that could have spoken to that. Kelly or Mary Ann, did you have anything you wanted to say to any of those, or the next one
No,
coming up?
they're standard.
They're standard, okay. All righty. 2413. Is one that let me get my notes here. That's one we just passed recently, and there's just a minor change in this policy. This policy, as it was passed, related to CTE credits, and it's WASDA's intent to insert a section in the beginning so that it's applicable to other subjects and not just CTE. So Kelly said, it's very basic and does not significantly change the CTE parts that we've already approved. So any further discussion or questions on that one?
I will move that we approve policy number 2413.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Here, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that policy is passed as well. Policy 2418. That is a waiver of high school graduation credits as a result of House Bill House Bill 1599 that was passed last year. It allows the district the flexibility to waive 2 credits if desired on a case-by-case basis.
That's right.
Is there any questions or comments? Anything from Kelly Neely or Marianne Marshall on that? Okay, all righty.
No, not at this time.
No.
All right, thank you.
I move that we approve policy 2418.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve policy 2418. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. We have passed that one as well. The last thing remaining on the action agenda is the proposed resolution number 20-03, emergency waiver of high school graduation credits. Does anybody want to speak to that one, Kelly or Marianne?
Sure. There is a waiver that the state put out. They applied for it for us, and then we had to apply to the school board to be approved. So there are various parts of it that we can do for the students, including competency-based credits, waiving certain credits if we've made a good faith effort. The state is do no harm. So this gives us the ability to waive credits if we need to for those students.
And I believe this is the only one of the policies that actually sunsets. The others are intended to be flexible crediting going forward for competency and proficiency, whereas this one is strictly for this COVID-19 emergency waiver, and it will sunset with the emergency rules on July 31st of this year. So
Correct. It's basically for our seniors to make sure that they can get graduated. If they were on track to graduate, we've moved them forward. We're giving them every possible way to make it through this. So this allows us to do that.
already. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
A question. I've been on a lot of calls with WASDA lately and with OSPI today. I was with the understanding that we expect all seniors to graduate, that there will not be any failures.
That's correct.
So when I hear good faith effort, or are they on track to graduate, where do we stand? If we had students that you didn't think were on track to graduate, what do we are they graduating?
We've been extremely open to any and all possibilities, Sally. But if we had a student that came in that was, let's say, 15 credits short, they're not on track.
They're not really seniors.
Yeah, they're not correct. So there will be some that will not. But the good part about this rule too is it applies to our super seniors, our 5th year seniors. So one of the things that they gave us that is going to be extremely helpful to us is that we can go back and competency grade a course that came prior. So if they failed in Algebra 1, but they passed in Algebra 2, we can go back and give them credit for that. So we've been able to make up a lot with that, but there still are a few that they were so far behind that even in a whole year worth of making things up, we wouldn't be able to get to that.
Sounds promising. And what, do we need a motion? Because this isn't a, this is, that we approve of this resolution. What's the title of the resolution?
Emergency waiver of high school graduation credits, resolution number 20-03.
20-23.
03.
Oh, dash 03. Okay. So I'll move that we approve resolution 20-03.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20-03. Is there any further discussion or comment?
I just want to thank all of those working with our high school students for the inordinate amount of work that this is taking to really see exactly where each student is and to support those needs. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I give a lot of credit to our counselors. They really have gone through every single student file.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Resolution is approved. Any other comments from anyone before we move on? All righty, then we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Sandy. Well, we are finalizing grading PK-12 with the philosophy really that we will do no harm to our students and always honor everything that they've done in terms of their work. I will be finalizing my written recommendation to the school board this week. But basically, I can say to you that in the high schools, our grading is A, B, C, or incomplete. We're not going to fail students. We're not allowed to do that. And that was stated by Superintendent Reichdahl today emphatically. And I agree with him 100%. And in the PK 8 grades, we will grade like we have in the past. Of course, those credits don't count, or those classes don't count towards graduation. And so the direction that we have discussed in our district, and we will formally send that to the board for your approval, is that we will grade like we always have and give students the benefit of the doubt as we move forward. That's very, very important. This is very historic. We've never experienced it. Our kids are experiencing it now, and it's something that we need to work with. And we had a conversation about D's, and D's can be destructive, and D's can take the momentum right out of a student's heart in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. So I pushed real hard so that I could recommend to you that in the high school, we will grade A, B, C, or incomplete. And that's consistent with what the state is asking, although the state is saying we can give A, B, C, or D. But we have the flexibility, and I'm hoping that you support just A, B, C, and incomplete. I've been Zooming with building leadership teams and staff individually and appreciate their outstanding effort and dedication to provide the very best for all of our students. The transition to remote learning is a challenge, especially in roughly the 40 days that we've been involved with it. And I can tell you that some of our teachers are having a hard time. They expressed that in a Zoom meeting that I was in yesterday. But, you know, they still are trying very hard. And they have, you know, children at home and trying to make everything work. I mean, the challenges are many for our teachers. But I'll tell you what, I've got just a snapshot, but I think the snapshot is evident of all the effort that's being put forth by our teachers. It's an opportunity right now to fine tune our instructional support, to move our students and the school district truly into the 21st century. So this is an opportunity for us to really hone in and learn as much as we can about remote learning, all of us, so that when school opens, we can integrate remote learning with the traditional model in a way that's going to be better than ever before. So again, that's going to be very important because school will reopen in some fashion, but we have to be prepared to integrate what we've been doing currently with the traditional model. I've also been spending a great deal of time reviewing the budget, the instructional program, and staffing. And this is a complex process, even in the best of times. But right now, in terms of uncharted waters and not knowing exactly what revenue we're going to be dealing with, it's taking a lot of thought by a lot of people, including myself, to make sure that we're continuing to move the academic program forward, and yet at the same time being fiscally responsible, because quite frankly, we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. But we know that the state's revenue is being greatly reduced. And through the Constitution of the state of Washington, we're guaranteed so much money, but we have to wait and see what the repercussions of all of this is going to be. So I'm going to be working closely with the school board. We have a study session on the budget tomorrow, and we're going to review our direction as it relates to developing a budget for 2021. And you've heard this evening that we are exploring a variety of ways to support and honor our seniors within our current guidelines. We are close to finalizing our plans, but I can tell you that we can expect certain direction from the governor on this issue. So we don't want to be too entrenched and communicate anything specifically as far as how we're going to graduate our seniors, because I have a sense that things might be loosened up a little to give us a little bit more flexibility in terms of graduation ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just comment that our study session, I believe, is Thursday.
Or Thursday.
That's tomorrow.
It's been Wednesday all day today for me. I'm sorry.
I started out on Tuesday, but somewhere this afternoon I made the switch to Wednesday.
Thursday at 4:30. Yes. Thank you.
All righty. Zoom Master, do we have any community comment at this time?
We have two. We have one as an email and one as a post to the YouTube stream, both from the same individual. Starting with the YouTube post, because it was posted during the time there was discussion about the rename. The individual is Shaylee Gordon. And the comment is, running start students were never given that opportunity to vote. I would have loved to do that. And the email also from Shaylee Gordon, Shelton High School graduation. As a Shelton High School senior, why would we not do something like Choice High School is doing? I believe our senior class would much rather wait to have a face-to-face ceremony. We look forward for 12 years to walk across the stage. I understand there are some seniors who are being shifted off into the military or other colleges, but we shouldn't let some of these few students decide if we get a face-to-face graduation. Please take the seniors' opinions into consideration. Shaylee Gordon. That is all.
Thank you so very much. And we value community input, so we appreciate that being there. And we look forward to what new direction we might be hearing from the governor before the week is out, perhaps. So, all righty, moving on to board member comments. Who would like to start? All righty, I'll go with Sally Carr.
I don't have any comments tonight.
Okay, that's quick. Next. Sally Brownfield looks like she's unmuted, so
Okay, well, last Friday we had a WASDA board meeting and several things came up. And they were looking at things all over the board. One of them is what's going to happen to the annual conference. And if we're going to have it virtually or a combination or what it might look like. So if you have any great ideas on that, wanting input, a lot of discussion about the equity plan and what we're going through right now and the whole idea of equity. And so when I'm thinking about that and we're looking at technology and those sorts of things, and even with our hotspots, well, but what if a family doesn't have a car to get to this hotspot? So it's given us a lot to think about. Things like that. One thing, and I was on the call on Monday with the WASDA, the weekly meetings, and then today I was on a meeting with OSPI, and it was, let me get the name right. Too many abbreviations. EEC, the Equity and Education Coalition, they asked for this meeting with Chris Reichtel. And so we met, there was a large group of people. And there was a lot on there about IEPs, 504s, how are we meeting those needs and the other needs of our students across the state, the opportunity gaps that are there and what's happening. So this led me to think about some other questions in our district, like if our, how are we taking attendance? Are we keeping good attendance records for those students that are in these Zoom classrooms, and then able to look at the data that we get from that. Another thing from all of these, one common thread I have seen, I'm just going to put this out there, is when we're talking about what can and cannot be done, especially in this kind of a unprecedented time. There's always this thread of, well, we can only do so much because of bargaining. And we had a voice, we have a person that's on the WASDA board who's also a pediatrician who made this statement. This is something I've championed for a long, long time, is what we are doing in the best interest of kids. And that's why we should be here. And so with the decisions that we make and with all of the parameters around us, including our bargaining units, what is the framework that we work around and through to ensure that we are always working in the best interest of children? Just a reminder. But I know that our staff and faculty and this isn't just teachers, even parapros, even if they're not right there today, have volunteered and stepped up to support our kids and have done a lot. I've seen some great things happening in our community. Like I said, heard some other words, you know, this could lead us into some real opportunity times and into ways of looking at how we do things and how we can do things better. Thank you.
Sandy, could I respond to one of the questions that, or comments that Sally made?
Absolutely.
Um, Superintendent Reichdahl covered a number of issues today. Grading policy, end of school, reentry to school in the fall, budget, graduation, federal dollars, and he did mention something about attendance. He said OSBI is not collecting and will not ask for daily attendance, but he did say that locally we need to document on a daily or weekly basis, and how did we engage and monitor students? And that needs to be something that each school district is aware of, because if we're asked, we need to be able to respond. And I believe that Kelly has mentioned that in a few meetings that we've had. So that's something we're well aware of. But in terms of, at least this is what I heard today, Sally, that in terms of OSBI asking for daily attendance from school districts, they won't be doing that under the circumstances. But we still have an obligation.
Yeah, I'm thinking that could just give us some good insight.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Thanks.
Carrie?
Yes, I just want to thank everybody again for all of the hard work going into this second week of remote instruction. Just all of the meals that are continuing to be served, and the packets that are distributed, and just all of the hard work. I can completely understand anybody at this point saying that this isn't easy, because it's not. And everybody's working so hard, and you can get busy and wonder why you feel so exhausted, but we're in a crisis situation. And, if anybody is like me right now, where you're trying to help multiple children with their education as well as balance your own job, it can get really difficult. And so I appreciate everybody who's making an effort. And I know we all need to give each other grace, including ourselves, on the days that it may not seem to be going very well. I did have a question. I forgot to mention this during the graduation ceremonies, but I know in the past we've done a senior scholarship and awards night. Will that be something that we look at doing virtually as well, where we can bring in the community partners that give out scholarships so that those can be designated to students somehow?
Jen, are you still with us?
I am still with you, and I can respond to that as well.
Thank
So Jill Burgo is our office professional who deals with all things scholarship. And just even as late as today, she and Dina Alley and I were sharing some messages. We are assuming that this will be some sort of a virtual presentation, but due to scholarship dates being pushed back, it definitely would not happen around the same time that it normally does, which is always the third Thursday in May. A number of the scholarships are not even going to be awarded until middle of June. So it would be something late June. Different ideas of maybe the groups doing some sort of a little video of who they are and what they're presenting and who it goes to. And then we could always put up a picture of the kiddo that's receiving that. But the ideas are starting to flow, but it's definitely something separate from commencement.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. As it has been in the past, but I'm very happy to hear that people are working on that. That sounds great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, just because I am walking through this with two daughters that are going through it, I have very much appreciated the touch points with teachers as they ask the different questions, and they are reaching out on a weekly basis. And I know just from watching my own two daughters, when they're able to connect with their teachers and other kids in their class, it makes such a huge difference during this crazy time. On my daughter's sixth grade math class, they do it all together. There were over 100 kids that logged in this morning. So that's just amazing. And it's amazing how the teachers coordinate everything. And if the kids have questions afterwards or beforehand, they make time for that. It's really been pretty incredible to watch. So I just really appreciate everybody's efforts in our school district right now. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you very much, Carrie. And thank you for bringing up the question about the senior awards. I was thinking about that too. Sally Brownfield and I have been reviewing the senior notebooks and And the school board wants to go forward with awarding the Drake Scholarship. And so that's what we've been reviewing the notebooks for. And we were going to ask the rest of the school board, how do we go about presenting a scholarship in this year? But if there is still some sort of a ceremony, even if it's a virtual one, you know, that's we can work along with that. But I thought maybe we should have our own backup plan in case we end up having to do something separate for any reason. So that was one. And the other thing we'll need to get serious about is filling the open position on our school board. So we probably should set a end date for or a deadline for receiving applications. And then once we know how many applicants we have, then we can figure out a time for interviews and have that all happen before the end of next month. So that, I think, is it for me. And again, I just want to give everybody a huge thank you for making all these things happen every day of the week. There's so much that's going on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't ever get to see. And all those people deserve big kudos for what they're doing behind the scenes. So
Thank you, Sandy.
thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Anything else? Any last minute comments, questions? Okay. We have no need of an executive session this evening, and so we can move to adjourn if someone is willing.
That we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All righty. We are adjourned. Again, thank you all very much for participating tonight.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.